The 21st of February 1900, Volume 3. Purity is obtained through mortification, and mortification renders the soul worthy of sympathy. This morning my lovable Jesus began to make his usual delays. May he be always blessed, for he always starts from the beginning. Indeed, it takes the patience of a saint to bear him, and one would have to deal with Jesus to see how much patience it takes. One who has not experienced it cannot believe it, and it is almost impossible not to have a few huffs with him. Then, after being patient in waiting and waiting for him, finally he came and told me, "My daughter, the gift of purity is not a natural gift, but an attained grace, and it is obtained by rendering oneself worthy of sympathy. The soul becomes so through mortifications and through sufferings. Oh, how worthy of sympathy becomes the mortified and suffering soul. Oh, how striking she is. And I feel such sympathy as to go mad for her. And whatever she wants, I give to her. When you are deprived of me, suffer my privation for love of me, which is the most painful suffering for you, and I will feel more sympathy than before, and will grant you new gifts." End of the reading. The 21st of February 1902, Volume 4. The speaking of Jesus was simple, so much so that both the learned and the most ignorant could comprehend it. The preachers of these times mix so many loops and quibbles with it that the peoples remain starved and bored. As I was in my usual state, my adorable Jesus made himself seen in my interior almost in the act of resting. But while he seemed to be resting, it seemed as though he received an offence which he could not bear, and as though waking up he told me, "My daughter, have patience. Let me pour this bitterness into you, for it gives me no rest." And while saying this, he poured what embittered him into me, and assumed his sweet aspect as to be able to rest. Then he continued to remain in my interior, spreading many rays of light in such a way as to form a net of light that caught all men in it. However, some would receive more of that light, some less. Now, while I was seeing this, our Lord told me, "My beloved, when I keep silent, it is a sign that I want to rest. That is, your rest in me and mine in you. When I speak, it is a sign that I want active life. That is, your help in the work of the salvation of souls, because since they are my images, whatever is done for them, I consider as though being done for me." As he was saying this, I saw several priests, and Jesus, as though lamenting to them, added, "My speaking was simple, so much so that both the learned and the most ignorant could comprehend it, as appears clearly in the Holy Gospel. But the preachers of these times mix so many loops and quibbles with it that the peoples remain starved and bored. It shows that they do not draw it from the fount of my spring." End of the reading. The 21st of February 1904, Volume 6. The promise of Luisa, if she is allowed to die. In the presence of the Most Holy Trinity, of the Queen Mother, Mary Most Holy, of my guardian angel, and of the whole celestial court, and in order to obey my confessor, I promise that if the Lord, by his infinite mercy, should give me the grace of letting me die, when I find myself together with my celestial spouse, I will pray and plead for the triumph of the Church and the confusion and conversion of her enemies, that the Catholic party may triumph in our country, and that the Church of St. Cataldo may be reopened for service, that my confessor be freed of his usual sufferings with a holy freedom of spirit and the sanctity of a true apostle of our Lord, and that, always if the Lord permits it, I will go to him at least once a month to confer about celestial things and things pertaining to the good of his soul. I promise all this for my part, and I swear. End of the reading. The 21st of February 1922, Volume 14. Love makes one die and live continuously, to give life to the beloved and form one single life. Continuing in my usual state, my always adorable Jesus, on coming, told me, "My daughter, my love toward the creature made me die in every instant. The nature of true love is to die and live continuously for the beloved. The love of wanting her with oneself makes one feel death and causes a martyrdom, perhaps of the most painful and prolonged. However, love itself, stronger even than death, gives one life at the very instant in which he dies. But to do what? To give life to the loved one and form one single life with her. Those flames have the virtue of consuming one life to fuse it within the other. This is precisely the virtue of my love, to make me die and form many seeds from my consummation, to place them in the hearts of all creatures, so as to make me rise again and form with them one single life with me. Now you too can die, who knows how many times, for love of me, and maybe in every instant. Every time you want me and do not see me, your will feels the death of my privation. And it does in reality, because as you do not see me, your will dies because it does not find the life it looks for. However, after it has consumed itself in that act, I am reborn in you, and you in me, and you find the life you wanted. But to return to die once again, in order to live in me. In the same way, if you desire me, your unsatisfied desire feels death. But as I make myself seen, it finds its life again. And so, your love, your intelligence, your heart can be in continuous act of dying and living for me. If I have done this for you, it is only fair that you too do it for me. End of the reading. The 21st of February 1926, Volume 18. Each manifestation on the divine will is a birth from it. Each act done in it is water, which is formed in order to expand the sea of the eternal will around the soul. I was feeling all immersed in the holy divine volition. A celestial and divine air surrounded me, and an inaccessible light made present to me, as though in act, all the acts of the supreme will, which, finding the same will in me, gave me their kiss and their love, and I gave them my kiss in return, and I impressed my I love you in each act of the eternal volition. It seemed to me that all of them wanted to be recognised by me, in order to have my requital, perfect accord, and mutual possession. Now, while I was in this state, my sweet Jesus came out from within my interior, and with his divine hands he bound me within that light, in such a way that I could see nothing else but Jesus, his will, and everything that it was doing. How happy I felt! how many inexpressible joys I experienced. Jesus himself was all in feast, and felt such contentment in seeing me all for his will and in his will, that it seemed he would forget about everything to occupy himself only with his will, so that it might be complete in me, and triumphing in everything, it might obtain the purpose for which all things were created. Then afterwards he said to me, "My daughter, little newborn of my will, you must know that one who is born in my will can also be a mother by giving birth to many children for my supreme volition. In order to be mother, it is necessary to have sufficient matter in one's own interior so as to be able to form with one's own blood, with one's own flesh, and with continuous nourishment, the birth which one wants to give to the light. If there is no seed and not enough matter, it is useless to hope to become a mother. Now, since you have been born in my will, in you there is the seed of fecundity, and there is also the fully sufficient matter of all the manifestations I have made to you on my will. It can be said that each knowledge I have given you can give birth to a child for my will. Your continuous acts in my will are abundant nourishment in order to first form these children of heaven within yourself and then deliver them as triumph, honour, glory, and crown of my will, and as perennial joy of the mother who delivered them. See then what each additional manifestation means. It is one more birth that my will delivers. It is a divine life that goes out for the good of creatures. It is to debilitate the strengths of the human will in order to establish in it the fortress of the divine will. How attentive then you must be not to disperse anything, even from the smallest manifestations I make to you, because you would deprive me of the honour of having one more child, which can narrate to all one more good about my will, in order to give it to creatures, that they might love it more and let themselves be subdued by the power of my supreme volition. Then, I don't know, I felt the usual fear that I might even just slightly go out of the most holy will, and my always lovable Jesus came back again and said, and all love told me, "My daughter, why do you fear? Listen, when you worry and afflict yourself for fear that you might go out of my will, I laugh to myself and I make it a joke for you, because I know that the water of the sea of my will that surrounds you is so much that you would not be able to find its boundaries in order to get out. Wherever you wanted to turn your step, to the right, to the left, to the front, or to the back, you would be walking, yes, but always inside the water of the sea of my will. And you yourself have formed this water with the many acts you have done in it. In fact, since my will is endless, by doing your acts in it, you have formed a sea around yourself from which you cannot go out. So each act you do comes to form new water to expand even more the sea of the supreme will, inside and outside of you. Your very fears that you might go out of the origin in which you were born are waves that you form, which in agitating you plunge you more deeply into the abyss of the sea of my will. This is why I do not reproach you, because I know where you are and how you are. Rather, I call your attention to live in peace in my will, or I give you a surprise by telling you more surprising things on the eternal volition, in such a way that surprised, you forget about everything, including your fears, and with peace you navigate the sea of my will. And I, divine helmsman, delight in guiding the one who lives in our supreme will and is all for it. May everything be for the glory of God and to my confusion, as I am the most miserable of all creatures. End of the reading. The 21st of February 1927, Volume 20. The reason for the great interest of Jesus in wanting to make the divine will known. My poor mind was wandering in the midst of the many knowledges about the supreme volition, and I thought to myself, why does Jesus have so much interest that this divine will become known and that it reign in the midst of creatures? Now, while I was thinking of this, my always lovable Jesus came out from within my interior and told me, "My daughter, do you want to know why I have so much interest in making my will known and that it reign in the midst of creatures? Because it alone is the means to be able to redo the creature, and it places me in the condition of being able to give, and her in the condition of being able to receive. Until my will returns triumphant and dominating into the midst of creatures, I will not be able to give what I want, and they will lack the capacity, the space to be able to receive that which I can and want to give. In fact, my will alone has this virtue, this power, establishing order and balance between creator and creature. It opens all the ways of communication between them. God has his royal path through which to send his gifts with no danger, to send whenever he wants, and bring personally his greatest goods to her. And the creature possessing the same path can receive him or ascend in order to go herself to take that which her Lord wants to give her. As rich and powerful as a king may be, if he finds no one to whom to give, he will never have the contentment, the satisfaction of being able to give. His riches will remain idle, isolated, abandoned. Perhaps he will live drowned within his own riches, but he will not have the contentment, the happiness to give and to let others enjoy his goods, because he finds no one to whom to give them. This king will be a king isolated, abandoned, without cortege. He will have no one who smiles at him, who says a thank you. There will never be feast for him, because a feast is formed by giving and by receiving. So with all his riches, this king will have a nail in his heart, abandonment, monotony. He will be rich, but without glory, without heroism, without name. What sorrow for this king with all his riches! Now, my daughter, the reason for which we delivered creation and created man was to give our riches, so that the external glory of our works may add to the internal glory and the immense happiness which we possess. So, since the creature is not in our will, we feel her far away from us. There is no one who surrounds us with his thank you, nor anyone who smiles at us with delight for our works. Everything is isolation. We are surrounded by immense riches, but because our creatures are far away from us, we have no one to whom to give them. We have no one who admires our works in order to enjoy them. We are happy, but because of ourselves, nor is there anyone who can slightly disturb our happiness. However, we are forced to see the unhappiness of the creatures, because being disunited from us, they cannot take and we cannot give. The human will has formed the fences and has locked the doors of communication. To give is generosity, heroism, love. To receive is grace, and the creature, by doing her own will, hinders our generosity, our heroism, our love. And if something is given, it is always restricted and given by dint of strains, of intrigues, because since the order between them and us does not exist, Things do not flow freely. We are not capable of sorrow. Our being is intangible to all evils. But if we were capable of sorrow, the creature would poison our existence. This is then the reason for all our interest. We want to give. We want to see them happy of our own happiness, and our will alone can do this, realizing the purpose of creation and allowing us to place our goods in common. O will of God, how admirable, powerful, and desirable you are! Oh, please, with your empire, conquer all, make yourself known, and make us all surrender to you. End of the reading. There are no more readings today.